Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Faisal. Welcome to the Voices of Vicissitude podcast. I'm your host. My name is Amna Rashid. I'm a final year medical student. I'm also one of the directors for the Marketing and Socials Department for the Society for Promoting Innovation in Education at AKU. So today's episode is going to be very, very interesting. We have our very own Dr. Faisal Ismail with us today. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
So obviously, I'm very excited to have you. So you have a huge list of accomplishments and achievements. I'm going to try and give the audience a little bit of an introduction as to who you are, your role at AKU, and your role at the CIME. So Dr. Faisal Ismail, he's an associate professor of gastroenterology here at AKU. He's also the vice chair of education in the Department of Medicine. He's the director of the ERCP fellowship here at AKU. He is a certified healthcare simulation educator with a master's in healthcare simulation from the University of Alabama in Birmingham. And last but definitely not the least, Dr. Faisal had been serving as our interim director for the CIME since the February of this year, and recently has been appointed as the regional director for the CIME in South Asia. So, sir, on behalf of SPI, we would like to give our congratulations to you on this huge achievement.
Thank you very much.
We're very, very happy that you could join us for our podcast today.
Thank you very much. And honestly, you couldn't be as happy as I am. I'm thrilled to be here today. Thank you for inviting me. I think you guys, this is a great show that you guys have, and I'm very happy to be a part of it.
We're very happy to have you. As you know, this is a student-run podcast. So we will be talking about your role in the CIME and the future of simulation, but I think we can start off as early as it can get. So maybe we could talk a little bit about your childhood, how you grew up, what inclined you to pursue medicine, anything that you'd like to start us off with.
All right. So I grew up here in Karachi till about class 8. My father was in the airline, so we tended to travel quite a bit. So I lived for a bit of time in the UAE, a bit of time in Europe, in Amsterdam. So I was exposed to those early childhood exposures to different educational backgrounds. But I came over here to Pakistan in grade 8 and then went through schooling, did my O-levels. At that time, and I decided pretty early on that I did want to do medicine. There were a few physicians, not in the immediate family, but in my parents' friend circle, who I liked emulating them. I liked the sort of lifestyles they led. I liked the stories they told us about patients. So I decided fairly early on that I want to be a physician. In those times, I'm talking 1989, you used to be penalized if you did your A-levels and then went into med school, because your marks there was no equivalent. So at that time, then I decided, I was told that I had to do my intermediate if I really wanted to compete and get into med school. So I did my intermediate, then joined medical college, did my MBBS. And when I finished my MBBS, I wanted to come to AKU. So there was this opportunity for internship. And I applied for internship, was second in the whole batch for Pakistan. Number 2, joined AQ and then never looked back.
Nice. So I believe you said you grew up traveling a lot. Any particular place that had a huge impact on you, something you enjoyed? You grew up in different schooling systems.
I did. But I thought at that time, the ones that I was exposed to in Europe, particularly those in Amsterdam and Rome, they were much more friendlier places. And schools weren't really schools in terms of how much education that went in, but it was more about making friends, learning how to talk to elders, talk to youngsters, be kind, be nice. So those were very important initial memories that I have.
So they're very holistic.
Absolutely.
If you were to compare them to the education system here, maybe. Is there anything in particular that you think would be different?
Well, I think the newer schools now are certainly have this focus of being more holistic in nature. At the times when we were growing up, I was growing up, it was generally all geared towards academics, without too much regard being given to the wholesome development of a child. But I think that's definitely changed now, and the quality of education we have over here is great as well.
So how would you describe yourself as a child growing up? Were you more academic leaning? Were you more of a sports person? Any hobbies that you had?
I think sports, definitely. I wouldn't really say that I was very academic. Yes, I did manage to get through, but but clearly my interest was definitely sports. Certainly, my mother would say that it was a difficult task getting me to study. So yeah, I mean, cricket and football, those were two things that took up a lot of my time while growing up.
So basically, you're saying you grew up as a person who had multiple interests, grew up traveling, did sports. So was there any particular incident that made you decide to do medicine, or was it just the influential people around you, the physicians, that eventually led to the decision that you would decide to pursue?
Well, I think it was that, and it's also my grandmother, Meri Dadi,
Ji.
Jo, she kept, whenever we grew up in a house together, and she used to always tell me कि बेटा डॉक्टर की हमेशा इज्जत होती है, तो वो ऐसी चीज़ करो जिसमें इज्जत सबसे ज़्यादा हो. So I guess she was also an influence. I grew up thinking that it is an extremely noble profession, and that coupled with my interest just made it an easy choice for me.
So which medical school did you?
I went to Karachi Medical and Dental College.
Okay, okay. And then you decided to pursue the rest of your post-grad education from AKU.
Well, yes, I did. I did my internship here, and post that, I did plan on going to the US for my residency, as a lot of all of you do as well. But due to some reasons at home, I couldn't do that. My mother was ill at that point in time, and I didn't want to leave her and go to America. So I stuck around for a bit, and then a year turned into 3, and then I just stayed back and did my training here.
Right. So I'm assuming you were around 17, 18 years old when you decided to pursue medicine and go to the medical college. If you had any advice for 18, 17-year-olds that are watching right now, what would you give them anything in particular that they should be considering?
Well, I'll tell you an interesting story. When I finished my internship, and it was time for a residency, I was very enthusiastic about becoming a doctor, but internship is tough, right? 36-hour long duties, doing the sort of scut work that all interns do, and then coming into the field and being told by my seniors that it's a long haul, right? You first do your residency, then you do your fellowship, and you're in it for the long time.
It goes on.
And at that same point in time, a lot of my friends, well, not a lot, about 3, did their MBBS, but then did their MBA and went into the pharmaceutical industries and started to become reasonably settled and earn a bit of money sooner than I did. So when I finished my internship, I started thinking, is this really for me? Do I really want to go down this route where it takes so long? Or should I just do an MBA and start to earn right now? So I did it actually. I took a year off after my internship, and I joined an MBA program. I gave the test for IB, actually passed the test, and I joined an MBA program, but I couldn't even do a semester. I couldn't even do a semester. I just did maybe about, I think, 6 weeks or 4, and I knew it wasn't for me. I just didn't enjoy it. I hated it, and once I went into that, I realized how much I love medicine. So I guess one of the things I'm going to say is that if you feel at any point in time that you want to experiment with something else, a different career track, a different path, don't die just wondering what would have happened.
Right.
I think had I not done that, I would probably have second guessed my passion for medicine a lot of times during the tough years of residency. But I gave it a try. I knew it wasn't for me. Through that path, I came to realize what was for me. So I think you've got to be a bit brave. If there is something that you want to try in life, do it. Try it and see, because you may like it. If you don't like it, at least you're sure what you want.
Right. So I guess you have to take a little bit of risk, and you have to be passionate about what you do.
Absolutely.
Right. So you did your residency in internal medicine, right?
Yes,
How
I
was
did.
that for you? Was there anyone in particular that stood out to you, someone influential in your life during your residency, perhaps? Anyone that influenced your decision to pursue gastroenterology, perhaps?
Yeah, I think definitely. So when you're going through your residency, you're still not very sure. I think those people are very lucky who make up their mind in the final year of MBBS what they want to do. A lot of us generally go through the residency and decide what we want to do. So I was in my second year of MBBS and I was rotating through gastroenterology. And I think two people who had a lot of influence on me were Professor Wasim Jaffri, who's now not here at AKU, but spent a career here building up the field of gastroenterology and the department here at AKU, and Professor Said Hamid. These two were the senior most people here in the department, and I liked rotating with them. I liked what they brought to the field, and those two were mentors for me.
Right. That's how you decided that perhaps what about gastroenterology is what excites you and makes you want to study it and pursue it?
I think in my year one of residency, I realized that I couldn't have a career where I would just be sitting across a desk and adjusting medicines only. You know, ले 620 को 40 कर दो और antihypertensive को 5 milligrams कम कर दो. I wanted more than that. I think maybe it was the sportsman in me that I like doing procedures. I like to be active. I like to be involved. So I decided in my year one that any field that I chose needed to be procedural. And in medicine, that left cardiology, pulmonology, gastroenterology. I went through all three, but I liked gastroenterology the best. I think it gave me the best balance of a thinking physician as well as doing procedures. I also like the fact that gastroenterology has a wide array of procedures. So from doing simple bread and butter endoscopies and colonoscopies, you can get even more technical and do endoscopic ultrasounds and ERCPs. So it gives you an opportunity to be as invasive and super specialized. So that's what I liked.
So that's very interesting. You kept bringing up procedures. So I think that begs the question that a lot of medical students essentially, it's a question we all go through about whether we should pursue medicine or surgery. So how did you decide that medicine was the thing for you and not surgery?
I think that happened during my internship. When I rotated through surgery, I just thought that the life wasn't for me.
Right.
Going into the OR didn't excite me, and colleagues of mine who were passionate about surgery, I could see the gleam in their eyes when it came to going to the OR. And I think if you're not so passionate about anything, then it's not going to work. So
Right.
so it just didn't do it for me. So I didn't do surgery. What excited me more was learning about syndromes, learning about diseases, going into pathophysiology was more aligned with a career in internal medicine. So internal medicine.
Right. So it's very interesting. I've never really thought of it like this. That gastroenterology would have the procedural aspect and the thinking physician aspect. So it's kind of combining the best of both worlds for surgery and medicine.
Yes, absolutely. You're right.
So I understand where that's coming from. So obviously you've been with AQ also for a really, really long time. You did your internal medicine residency from 1999 to 2003. And then you did your fellowship in gastroenterology from 2003 to 2006. And then you've been with us for a really long time. So how would you say AQ has or changed since that time when you were a resident and a fellow as to now, in terms of just the general environment, the AQ as a whole, anything in particular that you've felt like has grown or changed?
No, I think AKU has definitely evolved with time. The number of our programs, both in residency and fellowship, have increased. I think it's become a lot more organized. It's become a lot more. I mean, for now, I think the way the structured programs are, we also had a structure, but perhaps not as much as is today. Also, I think the program directors and the coordinators are a lot more professionally prepared as opposed to that time. So I do believe that with time, the programs have become much more aligned with objectives. The teaching methods and teaching methodologies have become more aligned with goals at the end of every year. The ACGMI accreditation, which happened in the university a couple of years ago, is testament to the fact how our programs have grown. So definitely, I think with time, AKU, we are always had the best residency programs in the country, and now we are of course competing with the world. So definite improvement there.
It's very exciting. So now I think we should come to the most exciting part. I feel like your role as the director, regional director for the CIME, and your role in healthcare simulation. I believe the CIME was founded in around 2015, and you've had a role from the start, right?
Yeah.
So could you tell us about your initial role and how you grew on to taking more of a role in simulation, and how you got into healthcare simulation, maybe?
Right. So it was 2015 when the building was built, and the chair of the Department of Medicine, and I had given a faculty grand round at that time about innovation in medical education teaching, and I had brought up simulation at the time, and it just so happened that at that time the CIMI was being opened up as well. So the chair of the Department of Medicine at that point told me that you've just given a talk on simulation and innovation. There's a simulation and innovation center opening up at AKU. Would you be interested? Because they're looking for people to tell them what sort of simulators we need. So it's a long exercise, would you do it? And that was up my street, so I said yes, I would. So that was the start of my interest in simulation. Prior to that, I'll be honest with you, yes, I was interested in medical education. I've remained the program director for gastroenterology for 5 years. I've been involved in undergraduate medical education as well. But to think of me as I am now, heavily invested in medical education, it wasn't a thought 10 years ago. At that time, all I had in mind was developing into a better, much better interventional endoscopist. So I was more interested in doing RCPs and EUS and developing myself in that. But I think this is again a learning point for all of us in the careers that we are, that as you progress through life and as you progress through your career, you may find things coming along which will interest you at that moment in time, which perhaps you did not even think of 10 years ago. And I guess that's also important for the audience that I'm talking to today, which would mean that it's not always necessary that you follow the traditional path that is there in our field, which would mean that you do your graduation, then you go into clinical medicine, you do a residency, you do a fellowship, and then you become a specialist and you do clinical medicine. And while that's the path that most of us follow, at some point in time your interests may change, you may develop new interests, or you may just get tired of doing the same thing. And it's okay at that point in time then to press the reset button and do what you really love doing, want to do. So that's what happened with me. The more I got interested in simulation, the more I realized that I'm actually enjoying this more than my regular bread and butter gastroenterology. And while I love doing that as well, this was taking over my interest. But then I also thought that if I see myself being a simulationist, I needed to develop myself professionally. I needed to learn the craft rather than just be interested in it. And then that's what started me on the process of professionally developing myself by doing my certification and my master's.
So what would you say is the role of healthcare simulation in medicine? How important of a role do you think it plays for the education aspect, for medical students, for residents, interns?
Right. So I think it has a tremendous role to play, and I think it's revolutionized medical education. I think medical education is not ever going to be the same in all parts of the world, including ours, after simulation. And I just want to talk about 2 or 3 myths that I'm constantly asked about, and through your podcast I want to address those, because I think it's important that this is done. The first is, and I'm asked by a lot of people, that how can simulation ever replace real patients? And the answer to that is it's never meant to replace real patients. Real patients and the feel that you'll get from talking to them, interacting them, examining them, doing a procedure on them will never be taken over by simulators, at least with the current ones that we have. But what a simulator is meant to do is make you more prepared and a safer doctor when you go to see your patient. So that internal jugular catheter that you're putting in, or that IV cannulation that you're doing, or that NG that you're doing, instead of practicing on your patient and making up mistakes on your patient and causing harm to the patient, Do all of that on the simulator,
Right.
and have a level of skill that makes you a safe doctor when you go to your patient. So that's one of the things that I want to talk about. The other thing is, a lot of people say that in a poor country such as Pakistan, is it all right to have simulators and spend so much money on simulators? All that money can be spent on making a new ward in a
Right.
hospital or getting. And to that I answer, for that there are healthcare policies. And if and they already have large budgets, and if healthcare policies cannot work with the budget that we have, then certainly diverting the money you have now for simulators is also not going to work.
Right.
We need to plug the holes where that money for healthcare policies is going, rather than diverting more money into it. And I think in a country like Pakistan, where doctors come from so many heterogeneous backgrounds, not everybody is an AKU
Right.
graduate, right, who is very well trained. There are doctors coming in from various backgrounds who may not be as trained. And it's simulation who's going to get everybody up to a standard of safety.
Right.
So you've got to look at simulation from the lens of patient safety and better training, rather than thinking of simulation as taking over patients, because that's never the purpose.
Right. That makes sense. So if we have one of the questions that a lot of the students here have is that if they want to access one of the simulations here at the CIME, how should they go about it?
So we have a booking process over here. There's Mr. Zishan, zishan.arif@aku.edu. It's on the intranet as well. You can get in touch with us. There's a form you fill out. It's very simple, and you'll get a booking.
Right.
If you want to use a simulator, that's the booking that you do. If you want a venue, that's the booking that you do. I'm available on Faisal.Ismail. Open door policy. Feel free to reach out to me, talk to me about anything regarding simulation and SIMI.
Right. And obviously, we have a lot of different simulations here available. Is there any particular simulation that's your favorite that you like to use?
Well, I love the GI Bronch Mentor, being a gastroenterologist. So that allows you to practice endoscopies and colonoscopies. But I think there's something for everyone over here. And it's really very interesting that you have stuff which is simple, so you can do it even at the undergraduate level, and you have very high fidelity stuff taking you into postgraduate. But cardiology, pulmonology, surgery, radiology, pediatrics, you name it, we have it.
Right.
In fact, ophthalmology has recently started a cataract tournament. So you can have fun with simulation as well. It's just not about honing your skills and just practice and work all the time. They're doing a cataract tournament in a few days, where they're calling in people and testing their skills, and there's going to be a winner we're going to be announcing. So you can have fun with simulation as well.
And for a lot of people who have done their MBBS and might want to pursue this pathway of healthcare simulation directly, what advice would you give them? What pathway should they follow?
Well, I think it's important to know a bit about medical education before you become a simulationist, because we need to understand that simulation is a method of teaching and training, but it's a method of imparting medical education. So it's important that you know a bit about medical education. So pathways that I could probably tell you are doing your Masters in Health Profession Education, MHPE. In fact, AKU over here has an MHPE with a simulation track as well. It's very recently launched, so what you can do is, while you're doing your MHPE, you can specialize in simulation as well. Otherwise, you can do what I did, which was to get certified from simulation centers, or do your master's and ultimately even a PhD in simulation.
Right. That's very interesting. Okay. One thing that I'd particularly want to talk about is the fact that were there any challenges you faced, because healthcare simulation is so new in Pakistan? Were there any challenges you faced when you were directing yourself towards this pathway? Or was it a little bit easier because AQ was more accepting and there was more opportunities here?
Well, I think both. AQ is amazing, is an amazing place to work, and the fact that I was able to do my master's is thanks to AKU as well. I was sponsored by AKU to do my master's, so it's clearly part of the vision of the department. The chair of the department and the dean and the provost all helped out to ensure that I could do my master's to serve the university. So yeah, AKU is great for that, but at the same time, the challenges also come from peers, my peers.
Right.
For example, faculty who still question, even in this day and age, whether simulation really has a role to play, and do I really feel is really important for medical education. So I guess those challenges were still there, where people are still not convinced about the utility of medical education, and are convinced that the older method of
Right.
education is a better one. But I think with constant advocacy, I think we'll get there.
Right. And on a global perspective, where do you see healthcare simulation and what role it's going to play? Obviously, it's very, very new in Pakistan, but on a global perspective, do you have any idea as to where healthcare simulation could go, how far it could go?
I think it's going to become a part of under and postgraduate training, uh, and will also find its way into accreditation and maintaining that accreditation.
Right.
As an example, we know that the aviation industry, pilots, all train on a simulator
Right.
as part of the training. They have to do it before
course.
they start flying planes. And once, even if they do that, they have to get a certain number of hours under their belt and a certain number of hours on the simulator as well.
Right.
It's odd to think that in a profession which prides itself on cutting edge technology, and where safety is such a major concern, we practice on our patients and directly without
Right.
going through a simulator. So I think with time it's going to be part of all undergraduate curricula. It's going to be part of all postgraduate
Right.
curricula, and I think as part of accreditation and maintaining a license to practice as well.
Right. And obviously, I've mentioned this in the start also. I'd congratulate you again on your position as the regional director. Do you have any particular plans with the CIME, with the healthcare simulation aspect, with the medical college that you would like to talk about?
Absolutely, very passionate about that.
Of course.
One of the major things that I want to do, and which Dr. Sadaf and I are already working
Right.
on, is to integrate simulation into medical college curricula. So while all of you do use simulation,
Do.
we realize that it's not mandated as part of the curriculum, which would
Right.
mean that some students and faculty may choose to do a little more than others.
Right.
Some may come to CIMI to practice, some may not come to CIMI to practice, and that may happen in medicine, that may happen in surgery, and any of the allied disciplines as well. What we want to make sure is that we integrate your simulation encounters in the curriculum, because we realize through literature that simulation works when it's not just an ad hoc activity, but when it is a structured activity where you get chances to repeat your task again and again to improve your mastery skill. So to give you those opportunities, what we are working on is to have structure in your curriculum which has dedicated simulation sessions for that to happen. So we're working on that. We're also working on doing a very similar thing in the postgraduate programs as well. In addition, we want to reach out to other centers in the country and the city to call healthcare professions in for their continuing professional development, and reach out to Gilgit, Chitral, Baltistan, those areas, to build capacity over there as well. There's lots to do.
That's very exciting. Okay. I have two very random questions.
Okay.
One would be that if you could have an opportunity to maybe recommend a book, a piece of literature to our audience, anything in particular, what would it be?
In healthcare simulation?
It could
or
be anything that you want. Any book, any literature. It could be related to healthcare simulation.
Well, I think if I have been able to interest a few of the audience in it, then perhaps maybe not a book so much, but the website of the Society for Simulation in Healthcare, SSH.
Okay.
The reason I say that is, although there are many simulation websites, this one is unique because of its completeness. It's a complete holistic site which offers you chances to develop yourself professionally, look for memberships, look for master's programs, look for PhD programs. So they're just not selling their own stuff. They're genuinely interested in developing simulators and
Right.
simulationists.
Right.
So yeah, that would be one.
Okay. Thank you for answering that question. The really random question was, if you had an opportunity to maybe have a cup of coffee with anyone from the past, maybe someone who's currently present, is there anyone in particular, someone who has played a huge role in your life, or someone who you think is very influential? It could be a family member, it could be someone really famous, it could be anybody.
Somebody I would really like to have a conversation with is Muhammad Ali,
Okay.
the boxer.
Okay.
I think I like the way he boxed. I've told you about my passion for sports.
Right.
But more importantly, I think he grew up at a time in the world where blacks were fighting for their own rights, for
Right.
self-determination, very involved in that. Uh, and I just love the way he handled himself from a young black man to stand up to everybody, come up through the ranks, and have so much of confidence and belief in himself to be the best. I think that would be a very interesting conversation.
So much, Dr. Faisal, for even coming on the podcast, for giving SPY an opportunity. We hope, honestly, SPY can have a very collaborative role with the CIME, as it always has. If there's any active role that we can play, we would love to play a role in that.
If you would come to my office right now,
Right.
there's a chart behind where I sit, where I've marked out stuff that I need to work with people, and there's SPY in every area of that. So
Right.
you can literally walk with me, and I can show that
We'll-
you.
we'll do
That's
that.
how much I think this relationship is important. That's how much I feel we can collaborate. I truly believe that whether it's research, whether it's education,
Right.
whether it's tech, I think we can both add to each other's experiences so much, and I would love to be more associated with you.